Welcome to Buddha's in Your Landfill, or your Zen moment. And we're going to pick up yesterday talking about a cup. Talked about the bent, remember this, the bent cup and the broken cup, or we're going to talk about it today as Adam's crack. But since yesterday, well, I talked a little bit about this last night, but I broke the, I have a little bridge and I dropped it and it broke and it's being fixed. I have to go get it this morning at the dentist, but I want to use that as part of something we find in the landfill, because we all have this, something we can relate to as a metaphor for the broken cup or the broken tooth, and how that affects us, you see. So we'll pick that up, and here's where we stopped off yesterday. We were talking about the cup as a metaphor of the crack that won't heal, and we're exploring this as a metaphor to penetrate or to understand why we are discontent and are dissatisfied or suffer with life. And the fact that in Buddha's teaching, the Buddha Dharma, basically the Buddha said, when asked what he does, he says, I teach suffering and the end of suffering, and that's it. So we're looking at, is the end of suffering or end of dissatisfaction. Suffering's not really a good word, but it covers everything that's negative in the mind. Let's put it that way. Worry, dissatisfaction, annoyance, irritation, envy, greed, confusion, all of these negatives that we just assume are normal are the fragmentation of this suffering, okay? So we experience it in different ways, but it all comes from the same source. You can tell I have a little whistle here in my mouth. So let's pick up our talk from yesterday and pull the cotton ball out a little bit. So we're going to use the missing tooth here as an example of a everyday broken cup experience, where you believe your image is okay. You look in the mirror, it's okay. You break a tooth or you break your plate or something, and now you've got a missing tooth, and now immediately you project people looking at you and say, "Ha ha, missing tooth, you're a loser." You see? So right away we can see a split in our mind between two images: the image that I'm okay, and then the objectified image, somebody looking at me as an object and saying I'm not okay. So now I'm suffering. Now I'm going to walk around like this. I can't even go outside. People will see me. You see, this whole idea of the world as believed in. In other words, I believe I'm cracked. You see, so whereas before I believed I was okay, but it's the same cup. So the same moment. But anyway, so this idea then that when I have a missing tooth, I have an imperfection, and that creates a idea of perfection in the future. So now I have to get to the future in order to get rid of the pain of the image of myself as being imperfect. You see, there's this play between perfection and imperfection. We all want to be perfect, but we all believe we're imperfect, so we're always trying to get to the perfect. And the perfect would be, my car's no good, I need a new car, I need a new face, I need an uplift, I need a new kitchen, I need a better TV, I need a better internet service. You see, just I need a faster service. I need something to make my life perfect or better than it is, you see, because I'm always experiencing life as being broken, as having a missing tooth. Something is missing, and I need to get that fixed, you see. And that we actually live that way all the time in our culture, because the culture enforces that feeling that something is missing and you need to get that image fixed, you see. So this is living in a world of image. I think this is what Mad Men was about. Living in a cutout world of image. And the images keep getting bigger now. They cover walls, they cover billboards. You go to New York and the images cover a whole building. And soon it'll be, if you could project an image on the sky, it would be an image in the sky, images on the building, and everything. We're living in a hall of mirrors, a hall of images. We live in the world as image instead of living in the world as just this. So with the missing tooth, there are two ways to live to be here. The Zen way is that it's just this. It's just a missing tooth. And it's a perfect missing tooth. You see what I mean? You know, this is a perfect missing tooth in the sense that this is a perfect bent cup. You see? In other words, this moment is always perfect. Now, perfect means whole. Perfect means complete. Perfect means just this. So this moment that we're always in is always perfectly just this, and it can't be anything different than just this, except when I imagine it can be different. Aha! So here's the rub, you see. As soon as I say this tooth, this imperfect, this missing tooth should not be, and it should not be because I imagine people looking at me and saying, oh, you're a loser, you got a missing tooth, you're not perfect, or I got a mole or a wart or something. So then I've got to get rid of that image of myself as being imperfect, and I've got to get to a better future image, and people will sell me things to get to that, or self-help programs, or do more Zen or more yoga or something. I got to get to that perfection, because the gap between now and the idea of perfection is painful, because it is a split in my mind. I'm divided now between an image of me as being imperfect, got a missing tooth, and an image of me as being perfect. I got my tooth fixed, you see, and so there's time there. So that is pulling my mind apart like taffy, you see. We can actually see this, notice this happening, and this is causing pain. So the greater the gap between these two images, now and the future, is the gap of suffering. And it can be very intense. It can be, and it creates violence. In relationship, when the gap between what you think the relationship should be and what you believe and what you see it as, you see, is tremendous. It will reach at some point where the gap is so large that it just snaps back with violence, and you hit somebody, or you throw something, or shoot somebody, or something. That violence snaps. It doesn't end the suffering, but it's created by the tremendous tension between the two images of now and future. So I'm calling this Adam's crack. You can play with that if you want to, but I'm using it with the metaphor of the cup, the cracked cup, you see. And so, and I use Adam as in a metaphorical sense, not in a historical reference that there was really some guy named Adam who did all this, you see. A metaphor means, when you look at it metaphorically, it means that you and I are Adam, and that we are in the Garden of Eden eating the apple right now. I mean, every moment is a bite of that apple, which splits the world into good and bad, now being bad and the future being good. See, that split of time, that when we bite that apple, and the apple is the whole apple, you see, of the garden of now, that is, you could say would be paradise. And paradise, again, we don't want to mean like, I'm in paradise. Paradise means whole, or just this, you see, which is Zen, just this. Nothing needs to be added, nothing taken away. Everything, the world is just this, and it can't be any different than just this. This is the truth, and we have to see it, that this moment cannot be different than it is, except in my imagination. But then when I imagine a better moment, that doesn't change, that this moment is still just this. Just this is imagining a better this, you see. So it's an illusion. There is no, because that's in the future, there is no now in the future. When I get to the future, it's always now, you see. So this eternal moment is always now, but our mind shoots out past and future, and we live up there, which is a world of image. And this is the modern mind. The modern mind lives in images, in time, a horizontal beam, past and future, you see. And this now moment, this Zen moment, is always here, but we bridge over it because we believe it's broken and it needs to be fixed. It needs to be restored. Restore America, restore the cup, restore yourself where in the future. And as soon as that belief comes in, as soon as Adam's crack happens, now we've got to get some means, some method to get to the perfect cup in the future, which means somebody's going to sell me something, or I'm going to get a savior, or I'm going to have somebody's come in, some way, some means has to come in to get to the end, which is the believed in future that will not have the pain of now. You see, so the crack causes a pain or a split in my mind, and now I've got to get or buy or ask or beg or worship somebody or something who will get me out of the pain and to a better place in the future. And the final answer to this is, well, that basically hear people say when somebody dies, well, he's in a better place. That means he's no longer suffering from the crack in the now, you see. So when we split the now into now and future, that creates our dissatisfaction with life and an endless chasing on the treadmill of trying to get to the end. And finally, we just give up and get drunk or take drugs, you see, because there is no healing of the crack as long as you believe in the crack. So this whole investigation basically is, in Zen, it's called the gateless gate. Or Krishnamurti called it the choiceless choice, you see, is that the mind, and this is just the way the mind works, it's not bad, it's just the way it operates, but we don't understand it, so we live in it, you see, kind of trapped in the operating system of the mind, rather than understanding how it works and realizing that it is not creating, that the mind is not creating reality. The reality, the mind is an avoidance of reality for survival reasons, but not for understanding of the question, who am I? So we're kind of like shifting this around and looking at Adam's crack. And this is the way a metaphor can be used. So the next time you experience a missing tooth, now a missing tooth would be any fear or pain that you are not right, that something's wrong, that you need to get fixed or not. You're not happy with yourself. You're not okay with the moment. As soon as you're not okay with this moment, you want a better moment. And there is no better moment. This doesn't mean that you can't get your tooth fixed. It doesn't mean you can't do something to make your life better. It just means that you're not doing it under the illusion that there's something wrong with you now, you see. That's where the pain comes in. The pain comes in when I split my mind into a perfect me in the future and an imperfect me now. There's only one you. There's only just this. See, each of us is this moment. Each of us is just this, you see. And we can't be there's nothing we can do or no place we can go to make this moment better than it is, you see. Except through our imagination and the illusion that we can avoid this moment. We can't avoid this moment. We're it. This is it. This is the Garden of Eden. We never left it. You see? So Adam's cracked up. Adam was cracked. You see? So that's the whole point. To me, that's the whole point of the myth, you know, that it's not that we don't need to see good and bad. We do for a functional reason. We got to be, you know, don't eat that, it's bad, and get that, it's good. You know, that person's screwed up, don't mess with him. Keep good company. You know, we need good and bad functionally. But we have to understand it as a survival, as a function that we need to use in order just to catch a bus and get around things and make stuff and all that. But it is not a way to understand who I am and what reality is. Because as soon as I believe that the operating system is creating reality, then I have created myself in the operating system as somebody with a crack, you see, and I've lost the ground. In other words, the operating system, to use a computer for instance, the operating system is something has a function, but it's not the hard drive. You see, so the hard drive is the ground, and the operating system is something that functions for purposes, but it's not who you are. It's not the ground of being. So we'll talk about this some more. It's a very complicated. It's very difficult to get a grasp of this paradigm that we're kind of like trapped in, and it takes a lot of connecting the dots, and it takes a lot of different views. It's kind of like a mountain, and every step you take, you're seeing a different perception of the mountain, a different view. So you have to keep walking around the mountain, and and connect all the different views, so you could you see the whole mountain. Everybody just sees a little face of it, you see, and believes that's the whole mountain. So we're going to walk around the subject as we go on, looking at different views in different ways. And at some point, the dots connect and you go, oh, I see, you know. And that seeing liberates you from the crack. The only way out of Adam's crack is by seeing that the cup is already and always is whole. The only way out of the crack is to see suddenly, spontaneously, that you're okay, that you're not cracked. Even with all the imperfections and all the missing teeth and everything, you are okay, you see. And that requires seeing, because that okayness is not in the future. You're already okay. So if you believe you'll be okay in the future, you're avoiding your okayness now, you see? You're avoiding being okay now because you believe you're okay only in the future. So now you got to work, you got to do good works, you got to do effort to get to salvation. And of course, Christianity, a good part of it says you can't get saved by good works. So you can't get to now by effort. You get there by seeing. And you can't see by effort. So seeing happens when enough dots are connected because you're curious about them, and enough dots are connected, and suddenly, bam, you see. And this can come in little insights, click, little flashes, little lightning bolts, boom, 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 or it can be a big one where the light comes on in the room. You're running around with a flashlight and somebody flips on the lights and you see the whole room. Whereas before, I'm piecing it together, you see. Though there's a little, what is that, a sofa? Oh, and over there, what is that, a chair? And what is that? So we're piecing together all these fragments and trying to come up with the whole picture. But you can't do it with a flashlight. And that's the operating system of the mind, is a flashlight. It just focuses on one thing at a time. But seeing sees the whole at once. Gestalt, bam, you see. And that can only happen at some tipping point when you've connected enough dots. And we don't connect the dots unless we're interested in it. It's a puzzle. What is the picture here? Connect the dots. We're doing that in the news today. What is reality? You got the journalists are, what is the story of Trump? Or what's going on? The different pictures. We have to connect the dots, and then suddenly at some point, I see. And once you see, you can't go back. Okay, well, we won't go back. We'll keep going forward, and I'll see you this evening at martini time, and we'll see what comes up then. So have a great day, and I'll see you later.